Chapter 7 is a bunch of assorted noun-adjective things. Some big concepts here, as well as some little things that are not that big of a deal. So, falling into the latter category are the substantive use of adjectives. There are basically, I think, the way I like to describe it, two fundamental uses of the adjective. There is the attributive adjective, where we've talked about attributive construction, where you are assuming this information about a noun. So it can be your subject, so the brown dog is running, or it can be in your predicate, I see the brown dog, but that word brown, I'm not asserting that about the dog, it's just a feature that I'm assuming about the noun. That's the attributive function, and then there's the predicate function, where I say the dog is brown. I am asserting about the dog that it's brown. So those are the two basic uses, in my mind, of the adjective. The substantive use is actually a subset of the attributive adjective, where the noun is so obvious that you can just leave it off. We do this in a few contexts in English. Do you like red cars or blue? I don't have to say cars a second time. You just kind of know what I'm talking about. That's sort of an attenuated one. Or no rest for the wicked. Well, for the wicked people is assumed there. Wicked is an adjective being used there like a noun or being used with an implied noun. That's a substantive adjective. And so that's what these are. Now, adjectives in English don't have gender, case, and number. They do in Greek. So the adjective all by itself gives you a bunch of extra information that isn't in the English adjective, or if it is in the English adjective, it's only by way of where it's placed in a sentence, right? But gender here is particularly notable, that most English adjectives don't have gender in any way. And so the gender of the substantive adjective in Greek will tell you, actually, most of the time, whether we're talking about many people, or, as here, polus, many men, polai, many women, or dana, terrible things. In fact, pola works as well. Neuter, many things, right? So the gender of the adjective can tell you sometimes what we're referring to, as well as the number and the case, doing number and case things. So not a difficult concept here. This is a kind of attributive adjective where the noun is so obvious that it doesn't have to be included. And the most obvious cases, the most common cases of these are people, so many people, terrible people, people and things, right? That's most often when you just rely on an adjective all by itself to refer to an implied noun. Okay, big concept for this chapter is declensions. You've learned two declensions. You've learned first and second declensions. Masculine and feminine are the first. Most first are feminine, but not all, right? We ran into a couple that have eta sigma as the nominative. Most seconds we've learned are either masculine or neuter, right? So we learned those two, and then we later learned there's a few weird ones like hadas that look masculine but are actually feminine, and you can only tell because of the article, right? But for the most part, we've learned first declension feminines, second declension masculines, and second declension neuters, and learned there's a few other exceptions. Okay. Third declension is where this all really sort of makes sense as a system. Why we describe it this way and not just as a few quirks. The reason we talk about different declensions, having different genders, is really all explained when you learn the third declension. And that's because third declension masculine and feminines are identical, and neuters are very similar, slightly different. They've got different nominatives and accusatives. And you just have to learn their gender as a native part of the noun, usually. A couple times there's third declension nouns that can be either masculine or feminine, based on whether the thing being referred to is a masculine, feminine, one of those things or not. But generally, they'll have a native gender, so every noun has its own gender, and you just have to memorize it. Now in Greek, this isn't that hard because the article gives it away, because you almost always have an article there, and the article will tell you what gender we're talking about here. So that's helpful. So first declensions, second declensions, I'm going to kind of skip. You can look over these examples. Note that the article here is giving away your gender. And the third declension they're showing you here that they're giving you now the genitive with every single noun you learn. And from now on, especially with the third declensions, you need to start memorizing the genitive as part of the vocab word. Because they're going to break down these third declensions by the last letter of their stem and going to talk about all these rules. And those are interesting, and you can go learn those, and those will help you form them. That's fine, and that's good, and you should look it over. But here's what you really need to know to understand this chapter, to read Greek, is that the nominative of a third declension noun is going to be unpredictable, and you need to memorize it. There are some rules that can guide you, and that's what this is giving you, some of those rules. But basic rule is you need to memorize the nominative singular as its own spelling. They're going to look related, it's going to be related, it's going to look similar, but it's going to be unpredictable. The rest of the noun is built off of the predictable stem. And to learn what that is, you look at the genitive. So look at the top of this page. Here's your dictionary entry. Ha phulax. Ignore this one. I mean, that's your nominative singular. So most common form probably. It's an important form. But that's not going to give you your stem. What's going to give you your stem is the genitive. The genitive is tu phulakas. And that you're going to take that omicron sigma, which is your genitive singular ending, not a nominative singular, like in second declension, right? So same ending, different meaning, because we're in a different declension. That genitive singular ending, omicron sigma, is going to tell you that's your ending, take it off, and what you're left with is the stem. And you're going to form the rest of things based on that stem. So fulakas, fulaki, fulaka, fulakes, fulakon, fulaksi, little quirk, but we can come back to that, fulakas. Now, that dative plural thing is not actually complicated. Anytime a sigma runs into another letter, stuff's going to happen. There's rules to predict that. Key things are all going to become xi. B things are all going to become psi. What am I missing? Lemner, liquids, those sounds, those are all going to become, well, they're going to disappear, basically. So there are rules. You can learn them. They're really predictable, and they all make sense. They're all phonological. They're all based on sound. So k, g, k. Those are all, that's kappa, gamma, ki. Those are all going to become xi. All the p, b ones, the plosives, are all going to become psi. So there are rules here. They're not hard to learn, but they're really easy to recognize because you have something with a sigma built into it, and an iota means your dative plural, as opposed to just an iota means your dative singular, right? So sigma sound plus iota means dative plural, just iota means dative singular. Easy to recognize. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff here, and you can get lost in this sea of discussions of vowels, of consonant sounds, and combinations and rules. Go look at that, but don't sweat it. Learn your endings. Nominative is unpredictable. Sometimes a sigma, but most often just best to think of this as unpredictable. It has to be learned. After that, as, I, a, ace, on, si, as. That's what you need to memorize. You memorize that those are your endings for third declensions. You're golden. And note, your article hasn't changed. Your article is still going to be your 212 article. That is, the article that looks like, más o menos, looks like, a second declension masculine ending with a tau in front of it, a first declension feminine ending with a tau in front of it, and a neuter ending with a tau in front of it. So your articles are going to stay the same. So the data of this is, what you'd hope for. It's exactly the same. Toad, fulaki. But check out the genitive, right? The genitive singular of the second declension is u. Of the third declension is as. They don't match in spelling, but they're the exact same meaning, right? They're both genitive singular masculine endings. Fulakas, it's tu fulakas. That means of the guard, right? Tu aigos, of the goat. Where are we? Tu anamatos, of the sheep. And these, we'll see, can be other genders. They don't give it here. So I guess we're focusing on masculine here. No. Yeah, we're not. So you need to memorize your nominative forms, and you need to memorize them with the genitives to tell you that those are third declension nouns. So heigune, you might be tempted to think of as a first declension feminine, but you'll see the genitive is not gunekes or gunes. It's not gunes. It's gunaikas, which tells you I'm in third declension mode. It's gonna go not heigunes, heigune, tes gunes. It's not gonna follow the first declension endings. It's gonna switch over to, well, it's gonna be just be a third declension noun. Tes gunaikos, to gunaiki, tain gunaika, right? So you're gonna use your third declension noun endings with this feminine. All right. Then you learn the reflexives. This is just a pronoun that takes 2-1-2 endings. So it's going to take your classic second declension masculine, first declension feminine, second declension neuter. Let's just use the genitive because that's what this doesn't exist in the nominative. So it'd be oo, ace, oo, like the noun endings you've learned as vanilla noun endings. You just have to these are just a few new words you have to recognize. And they have this sort of reflexive meaning, right? So this is how we do all reflexive stuff in English. We just use pronouns. He hurt himself. If you want to say that really simply, in the same way you can use this reflexive pronoun. They're used slightly more broadly in Greek than English uses them. You'll sometimes see them used in ways that we'll just translate with, like him. So he found, I don't know, when you want to talk about Steve giving himself something. I guess we say self. They're used slightly more broadly, but it's basically just any time you want to refer back to the subject of the sentence, you can use a third person reflexive pronoun. And the first and second work the same way, except you are the subject or the interlocutor is the subject. So there's nothing mysterious about reflexive pronouns. All right, then there's one last thing, which is the use. So here's just another set of lemnar endings. These are the nasal stems they're showing you here. Nasal, then labial, and liquids. Same thing. Memorize the nominative. It's different. Use the genitive to figure out what the stem is. Same set of endings. Some weird interactions going on with the dative plural sigma. Just because sigmas make weird things happen. In this case, make stuff disappear. Here's the last actual concept. Not much of a concept, but you have both the interrogative and the indefinite use of these pronouns. So tis to mean who, as in who are you? And also tis to mean whoever. These are formed they're formed as third declension. It's called a third declension adjective. So I guess it's not even an adjective. I guess it can be an adjective. This pronoun and adjective, it can function both ways, is formed with more or less defective third declension endings. In fact, I'm not even sure it's defective. I think it might just be normal. I think it's just a normal third declension ending. This word tis. And you've encountered similar looking words, right? You've encountered tis to mean who, just the question word, which is basically this. Although this is going to be a pronoun, so it's going to be you can use it in other cases, to who should we give this package? Right, that's just one word in Greek, tini, right? To whom, I suppose we'd say in English. That's the interrogative. So interrogative means question from the Latin word to ask. And here we have the indefinite, which is just the whoever. The sort of we're not specifying someone, and if you want to use it as an adjective or a pronoun to refer to someone unspecified, you can use the same word. Not tricky. The third declension is the one to think about. Go read over that stuff, but don't get bogged down. Remember the basics. Nominative has to be memorized separately. It has to be memorized with the genitive because the genitive is going to give you your actual stem. Remove it off. And there's some biforms. Mostly just that genitive singular is the most annoying biform because it looked for if it's a third declension noun, Omicron sigma means it's genitive. If it's a second declension noun, Omicron sigma means it's nominative, right? Same ending, different meanings. But most of the time, the article will save you. So if you haven't memorized your articles, silly you.